Blood-soaked red wedding dupatta floating in bathtub water. Camera pulls back to reveal lifeless eyes staring at bathroom ceiling. Wedding music still playing from downstairs. November 3rd, 2024, 11:30 p.m. Surrey, British Columbia. What was supposed to be the happiest day of Priya Sharma's life became her last. The bride who had fooled an entire family with fake credentials would pay the ultimate price when her web of lies unraveled in the most brutal way imaginable. Cut to wedding preparations 12 hours earlier. Henna, laughter, celebration. But this story doesn't begin with blood. It begins with a brilliant mind who chose deception over honesty, and a family whose honor meant more than human life. The story of Priya Sharma's elaborate con began not in the gleaming towers of downtown Vancouver, but in the cramped call center cubicles of Chandigarh, where dreams go to die and desperation breeds creativity. At 28, though she claimed to be 25, Priya possessed something more dangerous than beauty or intelligence. She had the rare gift of becoming exactly what people needed her to be. Unlike her colleagues who answered customer service calls with dead voices and deader futures, Priya studied every conversation like a masterclass in human psychology. A high school dropout masquerading as an MBA graduate, she didn't just solve insurance problems, she learned desires, fears, and weaknesses. She discovered that people desperately wanted to believe in success stories, especially ones that validated their own dreams of upward mobility. Working night shifts to serve Canadian time zones, Priya spent 2 years listening to the lives of immigrants who had made it. She memorized their speech patterns, their casual references to corporate hierarchies, their complaints about mortgage payments and school districts. She built a psychological profile of successful Indian-Canadian families, mapping their values, expectations, and most importantly, their blind spots. The genius wasn't in complexity, but systematic precision. She didn't simply forge a degree, she created an entire identity ecosystem. LinkedIn profiles showing a 5-year marketing career trajectory. Photoshopped images placing her at graduation ceremonies she'd never attended. Fake reference letters from companies that existed but had never heard of her. She studied marketing terminology until she could discuss brand strategies and consumer analytics with convincing authority. Her target wasn't random, the Malhotras of Surrey, British Columbia, whose restaurant empire and community standing made them perfect marks for her ultimate deception. Rajesh Malhotra, 52, embodied every immigrant success story. 20 years earlier, he had arrived with nothing but determination and a business degree. His chain of 5 Indian restaurants had made him wealthy, respected, and desperately concerned about maintaining reputation in Surrey's tight-knit Punjabi community. Success meant everything, but family honor meant more. Sunita Malhotra, 48, a former teacher turned community leader, had spent 2 decades building social standing through careful cultivation of relationships and relentless pursuit of respectability. Her obsession with educational credentials bordered on pathological. She believed degrees determined human worth, making her particularly vulnerable to Priya's academic fabrications. Their son Arjun, 32, represented both greatest pride and deepest anxiety. A successful software engineer with his own downtown Vancouver condo, he validated every parental sacrifice. But unmarried at 32, he was becoming a source of growing embarrassment in a community where marriage defined family completion. Uncle Vikram, Rajesh's 50-year-old business partner, carried the weight of traditional values that demanded family honor be protected at any cost. Never fully adapted to Canadian ways, Vikram served as keeper of cultural traditions that younger generations increasingly questioned but dared not challenge. Priya's research revealed their weaknesses: Sunita's credential obsession, Rajesh's reputation concerns, Arjun's pressure to find someone understanding immigrant expectations. She would become the perfect solution: educated, accomplished, culturally appropriate. The elaborate con required 8 months of preparation. She created fake social media histories going back 5 years, complete with graduation photos, office parties, and career milestones. She hired struggling actors from local theater groups to pose as colleagues during video calls, coaching them on corporate terminology and office politics. Every detail was crafted to withstand casual scrutiny. The matrimonial website contact seemed destined: successful marketing executive seeking traditional values with modern ambitions. Parents were immediately impressed by her credentials and family background. Arjun appreciated her confidence and intelligence during carefully staged video calls from her friend's workspace, decorated to look like a corporate office. The engagement ceremony in India proceeded flawlessly. Priya's parents, proud but puzzled by their daughter's sudden success, played their parts perfectly. The wedding was planned for Canada, where Priya would relocate for marriage, conveniently eliminating need for extensive family background verification. Neither side suspected that this blessed match would become a cautionary tale about the deadly intersection of deception and honor, where lies bred in desperation would ultimately be paid for in blood. November 3, 2024, dawned with the crisp promise of winter in Surrey, British Columbia. The Guru Nanak Gurdwara hummed with preparation as volunteers arranged marigold garlands for what would become the most talked-about wedding in the community's recent memory, though not for the reasons anyone expected. In the bridal preparation room, Priya sat surrounded by community aunties applying intricate henna patterns to her hands while others arranged her borrowed red and gold lehenga. The stunning creation carried blessings from another woman's happy marriage, though today it would witness only deception and bloodshed. Every detail was perfect, from the heavy gold jewelry to the delicate nose ring that marked her transition from maiden to wife. Internally, Priya fought waves of panic that threatened to destroy her carefully maintained composure. 8 months of preparation had led to this moment, and she could feel the weight of 500 pairs of eyes that would soon scrutinize her every gesture. During the morning video call with her parents in Chandigarh, her mother had cried openly, lamenting their financial inability to attend. What they didn't know was that their daughter had specifically discouraged their attendance, knowing their presence would immediately expose the vast discrepancies in her fabricated success story. Sunita Malhotra glowed with maternal pride as she moved through the preparation areas, pointing out to neighboring aunties how graceful and educated her new daughter-in-law appeared. MBA from Delhi University, she announced repeatedly, her voice carrying the satisfaction of a woman whose social investment was about to pay enormous dividends. Working in marketing for multinational company. Such accomplished girl from good family. The disaster began with the unexpected arrival of Manjit Singh, a guest whose name hadn't appeared on any carefully vetted invitation list. At 55, he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who had built his Canadian success through decades of careful observation and networking. His late arrival was due to a delayed flight from Toronto, where he now managed operations for a major telecommunications company. What no one knew was that 5 years earlier, he had been operations manager for Chandigarh Call Center Solutions, Priya's actual former workplace. The ceremony proceeded with traditional pageantry as dole players announced the groom's arrival and Priya walked slowly toward the Guru Granth Sahib where Arjun waited. The 4 sacred lavs began with prayers that spoke of truth, loyalty, and spiritual partnership, concepts that mocked every foundation of their relationship. During the community lunch break, as guests mingled in the hall sharing congratulations and gossip, Manjit Singh found himself studying the bride with growing confusion. Something about her face, her mannerisms, triggered memories he couldn't quite place. When she laughed at a guest's joke, the sound crystallized his recognition with devastating clarity. "That's impossible," he muttered to himself, approaching a group of family friends. "I know that girl, but not as any marketing executive." His whispered observations rippled through the crowd like wildfire. Manjit uncle says he recognizes the bride from somewhere else. He thinks she worked in a call center, not corporate marketing. Maybe he's mistaken. She has MBA degree, right? Sunita's maternal radar, finely tuned after decades of protecting family reputation, detected the shift in conversation patterns immediately. The way voices dropped when she approached, the questioning glances directed toward the bride, the subtle but unmistakable change in the room's energy. Her 20 years of community leadership had taught her to read social dynamics like weather patterns, and she sensed a storm building. During the lunch break, she cornered Manjit Singh in a quiet corridor, her voice carrying the steel that family members had learned to fear. "Manjit uncle, I'm hearing you have concerns about my daughter-in-law. Please share them directly with me." What followed was a devastating revelation that destroyed 2 decades of careful reputation building in minutes. Manjit explained his previous role in Chandigarh, his clear memory of Priya as a customer service representative, not a marketing executive. He showed employment records on his phone, pay stubs he still had access to, even photos from company events where Priya appeared in standard call center uniform. High school certificate only, he concluded quietly. No university degree, no marketing experience. I remember her specifically because she was always asking about Canada, about successful families here, about immigration requirements. The evidence hit Sunita like physical blows, each document destroying another pillar of her carefully constructed world. Every congratulation from community members now felt like mockery. Every compliment about her accomplished daughter-in-law became a reminder of how thoroughly she had been deceived. Rajesh's business mind immediately calculated the catastrophic damage. Wedding costs, community humiliation, potential impact on restaurant reputation if word spread through Surrey's interconnected Punjabi business network. His 20 years of building relationships with suppliers, customers, and competitors could be destroyed by association with marriage fraud. Arjun felt the ground shifting beneath everything he thought he knew about his new wife. The confidence he had found attractive now seemed like calculated manipulation. The intelligence he had admired revealed itself as sophisticated deception. Every intimate conversation, every shared dream about their future, every moment of connection had been built on lies. But it was Uncle Vikram's reaction that transformed family embarrassment into something far more dangerous. His traditional mindset, never fully adapted to Canadian concepts of forgiveness and second chances, made compromise impossible. Our family honor has been deliberately destroyed, he whispered in Punjabi, his voice carrying the weight of ancestral expectations. This cannot stand. This will not stand. The family's hurried conference in a private room produced a chilling consensus. The wedding celebration must continue to avoid immediate public scandal, but Priya would face private justice once the guests departed. Sunita's smiles for the remainder of the evening became masterpieces of deception, her congratulations as fake as the bride's credentials. Extended family members were quietly informed of the discovery, creating a network of shared anger and humiliation that grew throughout the day. Cousins, aunts, and uncles who had praised the match now felt personally betrayed by their association with fraud. Priya sensed the change in family dynamics but couldn't identify the specific threat. The warmth had disappeared from Sunita's eyes, Rajesh avoided direct conversation, and Uncle Vikram watched her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. The last guests departed around 10 p.m., their cheerful goodbyes echoing in the decorated hall. Priya finally relaxed, believing she had successfully completed the most challenging performance of her life. Exhaustion from maintaining her facade for 12 hours made her grateful for the family's suggestion of a private discussion in the master bedroom. "We need to talk about your future with our family," Sunita said quietly, her voice carrying none of its earlier warmth. The master bedroom door clicked shut behind Priya with the finality of a trap closing. She turned to find four faces arranged in judgment. Arjun torn between anger and disbelief, Rajesh clutching evidence documents, Sunita with eyes like winter steel, and Uncle Vikram radiating the kind of cold fury that made the air itself feel dangerous. There would be no escape from this room until family honor had been satisfied, and in Uncle Vikram's traditional worldview, only blood could wash away the stain of such deliberate deception. The master bedroom felt smaller with 5 people present, the air thick with tension that made breathing difficult. Sunita placed the evidence folder on the bed between them like a prosecutor presenting Exhibit A, her movements deliberate and terrifying in their controlled fury. "We know everything, Priya." Or should I say, customer service representative Priya Sharma from Chandigarh Call Center Solutions. Sunita's voice carried the deadly calm that her family had learned to fear over 2 decades of marriage. Priya's carefully maintained facade cracked as she stared at the employment records, pay stubs, and photographs that documented her real life with devastating accuracy. Her shocked face revealed the moment she realized her elaborate deception had been completely exposed, every lie stripped bare under the harsh light of documented truth. "This isn't what it looks like," she stammered. But the words sounded hollow even to her own ears as Manjit Singh's evidence stared back at her from the folder. "High school dropout," Rajesh read from the educational transcripts, his voice heavy with disgust. "Customer service representative earning 25,000 rupees per month. No MBA, no marketing experience, no multinational company position. Every single thing you told us was a calculated lie." The family's rage built systematically as the scope of deception became clear. This wasn't a simple exaggeration or harmless white lie. This was a sophisticated con designed to steal their son, their money, and their reputation. 8 months of careful planning to infiltrate and exploit their family's success. Arjun's humiliation transformed into something darker as he processed how thoroughly he had been manipulated. Every intimate conversation about their future, every moment of connection he had treasured, every dream they had shared, all of it built on deliberate deception. The woman he had made love to on their wedding night was a complete stranger who had studied him like a mark to be exploited. "You made me complicit in fraud," he said quietly, his software engineer's mind calculating the legal implications. "Our marriage is based on false documents. I could lose my job, my security clearance, everything I've worked for." Rajesh's business instincts kicked in as he calculated the catastrophic financial damage. The wedding had cost $40,000. The community humiliation would impact restaurant patronage. Business relationships built over 20 years could crumble if word spread through Surrey's interconnected networks. His empire, built from nothing through decades of sacrifice, threatened by association with marriage fraud. What followed was a systematic dismantling of every lie Priya had constructed, each revelation designed to maximize her humiliation and the family's sense of betrayal. Uncle Vikram, his traditional mindset viewing this as a battle for family honor, orchestrated the psychological torture with military precision. "Call your parents," Sunita commanded, shoving her phone toward Priya. "Tell them the truth. Tell them their daughter is a fraud who deceived a respectable family." The forced phone call to Chandigarh became another layer of devastation. Priya's parents' shock and horror echoed through the speakerphone as they learned their daughter had not only lied about her education and career but had committed marriage fraud that could result in criminal charges and deportation. "Beta, what have you done?" Her mother's voice broke across the international connection. "We raised you with values. How could you destroy another family's trust like this?" Her father's silence was even more damning than words. The disappointment in his breathing, the way he struggled to process that his daughter had become someone he didn't recognize, added crushing weight to Priya's psychological collapse. Sunita documented everything on her phone, creating evidence of Priya's confessions that could be used to protect the family if legal complications arose. Extended family members who had been informed of the deception took turns expressing their sense of betrayal, each voice adding to the chorus of condemnation. Cousins who had welcomed her warmly now spoke of feeling foolish for believing her stories. Aunties who had praised her accomplishments felt personally deceived by their association with fraud. Uncle after uncle expressed outrage at being made complicit in what they now understood was elaborate criminal deception. Priya's confidence, built through years of successful manipulation, shattered completely under the systematic assault. Reduced to sobbing apologies and desperate pleas for forgiveness, she bore no resemblance to the poised, accomplished woman who had charmed them for months. Uncle Vikram assumed leadership of the family debate with the authority of traditional patriarch, his 50 years of life experience and old-world values making him the natural decision-maker in this crisis. His mindset, never fully adapted to Canadian concepts of forgiveness and legal resolution, viewed this as a matter of family honor that transcended modern considerations. "In our culture, some betrayals cannot be forgiven or forgotten," he declared in Punjabi, his voice carrying the weight of ancestral expectations. "She didn't just lie to us, she performed a calculated attack on our family's reputation and standing." Traditional honor concepts clashed violently with Canadian legal reality as the family struggled to find a solution that would protect their standing without destroying their futures. Vikram's old-school mindset demanded a permanent solution to the shame that Priya's deception had brought upon their name. Rajesh, caught between business concerns and family honor, worried about the legal implications of any extreme action but found himself swayed by Vikram's arguments about protecting their hard-earned reputation. 20 years of building success in Canada could be destroyed by association with marriage fraud. Arjun, still processing his personal humiliation, suggested simply exposing her publicly and pursuing divorce, but his voice lacked conviction against the older generation's fury. At 32, he remained deferential to family authority even as his modern sensibilities recoiled from the direction of their discussion. Sunita, obsessed with saving face in the community that defined her identity, found herself supporting increasingly extreme measures to prevent the story from becoming public knowledge. Her 48 years of careful reputation building couldn't survive being known as the woman who was fooled by a call center worker. Vikram's influence over family decision-making became dominant as his traditional authority overrode younger voices. She has made us accomplices to fraud. She has stolen our son's future. She has destroyed 20 years of building respect in this community. When Priya attempted to leave, realizing the conversation had moved beyond confrontation into something far more dangerous, she found herself physically restrained by Arjun and Vikram. The men's hands on her arms transformed the situation from psychological torture into physical imprisonment. Uncle Vikram's traditional mindset took full control as he articulated what the others were thinking but afraid to voice. She has dishonored our family name beyond redemption. There can be no forgiveness for such calculated deception. The struggle became violent as Priya's desperation set in and she fought against their restraint. Her panicked attempts to reach the door were met with increasing force as the family realized they had crossed the line from confrontation into kidnapping. Rajesh watched in growing horror as he understood they had moved beyond legal boundaries, but his panic about consequences warred with his agreement that Priya couldn't be allowed to destroy them publicly. His business mind calculated that exposure would be worse than the current situation. Vikram made the fatal decision with the certainty of someone whose worldview left no room for compromise. She cannot be allowed to destroy us. Our honor demands permanent resolution. Sunita's support for Vikram's decision revealed how completely her obsession with reputation had overridden basic human compassion. 20 years of community leadership meant nothing if she became known as the woman who was deceived by a high school dropout. The bathroom was chosen for its isolation and the practical considerations of staging what would appear to be suicide from shame and guilt. The master in suit, with its locked door and sound-dampening tiles, provided the privacy needed for what they convinced themselves was justice rather than murder. Uncle Vikram and Arjun held Priya's struggling form while Sunita acted with the efficiency of someone who had made peace with necessity. Rajesh watched in frozen horror, his paralysis making him complicit even as his conscience screamed against what was happening. Multiple family members shared culpability in the violence that followed, each action binding them together in a conspiracy that would destroy them all. The staging was carefully orchestrated to support their narrative of a bride overcome with shame at her exposure. The wedding dupatta, symbol of marital joy and new beginnings, became the instrument of death in a bitter irony that none of them would ever escape. Its red fabric, meant to bring good fortune, was transformed into evidence of premeditated murder. Vikram's final words as life drained from Priya's eyes carried the weight of values that had become toxic in their absolute application. Honor is more valuable than life. Our family name will survive this shame. As Priya's struggles ceased and her eyes stared sightlessly at the bathroom ceiling, the family honor they believed they were protecting had already begun its transformation into a legacy of murder that would destroy everything they had spent decades building. Uncle Vikram's 50 years of life experience served him well as he orchestrated the staging with chilling efficiency. The bathroom scene was carefully arranged to support their narrative, wedding dupatta positioned to suggest suicide by hanging, Priya's body positioned to indicate shame-driven self-harm. Every detail reflected his understanding that Canadian police expected certain behaviors from traditional immigrant families. The fake suicide note, written in Priya's handwriting after hours of forced practice during their psychological torture session, expressed overwhelming guilt about deceiving the family and bringing dishonor to their name. Vikram had dictated words that would resonate with investigators familiar with cultural honor dynamics. Rajesh's 911 call at 11:47 p.m. was a masterpiece of controlled panic. "My daughter-in-law, I think she's hurt herself. Please come quickly. There's blood in the bathroom." His 20 years in Canada had taught him exactly how to sound like a shocked father-in-law discovering tragedy. Sunita practiced her grief performance while emergency vehicles raced through Surrey's quiet streets. Her 48 years of community leadership had made her expert at displaying appropriate emotions for public consumption. She prepared tears, traditional gestures of mourning, and carefully worded explanations about family shame. Arjun, genuinely traumatized by participating in murder, found his authentic horror useful for the cover-up. His 32 years of obedience to family authority made following their plan automatic, even as his conscience screamed. When police arrived, His shock appeared completely genuine. The initial response treated it as straightforward cultural suicide, immigrant bride overwhelmed by shame after deception exposure. Officers had seen similar cases where family honor pressures led to tragic outcomes. The family's coordinated story about Priya's depression and guilt seemed to fit established patterns. Detective Sarah Chen's 15 years investigating domestic violence had taught her to recognize staged scenes. Something about the bathroom arrangement triggered her instincts immediately. The positioning was too neat, too carefully arranged for genuine suicide. Bruising patterns on Priya's neck were inconsistent with self-inflicted hanging. The marks suggested multiple hands, different pressure points, struggles against restraint. Defensive wounds on her hands indicated she had fought against attackers, scratching and clawing for survival. Wedding guest statements revealed conflicting narratives about the bride's emotional state. While family claimed Priya seemed depressed after her exposure, other guests described her as tired but not suicidal. The timeline of discovery didn't match Rajesh's version of events. Forensic analysis systematically destroyed the family's carefully constructed narrative. Multiple DNA samples under Priya's fingernails included genetic material from Vikram, Arjun, and Sunita. The evidence painted a clear picture of violent struggle involving multiple attackers. Phone records revealed frantic family group chat activity during the evening, with messages discussing permanent solutions and protecting family honor. Financial investigation uncovered Priya's real background, confirming her deception but also establishing motive for family revenge. University verification confirmed no enrollment records under her name. Employment verification with Chandigarh Call Center Solutions documented her actual work history, completely contradicting her claimed marketing career. Surrey's Indian community initially rallied around the Malhotra family, accepting the narrative of shameful bride choosing death over Dishna. Traditional community leaders spoke about cultural pressures and the tragedy of young people unable to handle family disappointment. However, some community members began questioning the official story. Priya's behavior at the wedding didn't seem suicidal. The family's immediate coordination seemed suspicious. Whispered conversations in gurdwaras and community centers gradually shifted from sympathy to suspicion. Priya's real family in India demanded justice, hiring lawyers and engaging media attention. Their grief was genuine, untainted by honor concerns. They insisted their daughter, despite her deceptions, didn't deserve death. The case broke when Arjun's younger cousin, present during family discussions but not involved in the murder, couldn't handle the psychological pressure. During his third police interview, he provided detailed confession about the evening's events. His testimony revealed premeditated coordination among family members, recorded discussions about permanent solutions, and systematic planning of the cover-up. The innocent-appearing family gathering had been a coordinated execution designed to protect honor through murder. The evidence was overwhelming. DNA, phone records, witness testimony, and forensic analysis all contradicted the suicide narrative. What began as cultural tragedy revealed itself as calculated honor killing, shocking Surrey's community and destroying everything the Malhotra family had spent decades building. The coordinated arrests shattered Surrey's quiet morning as RCMP officers simultaneously descended on multiple addresses. Uncle Vikram, handcuffed at his modest townhouse, maintained the stoic dignity he believed befitted a man who had protected family honor. At 50, he showed no remorse, genuinely believing he had fulfilled his cultural duty. Murder charges were filed against Vikram as ringleader, with Sunita and Arjun charged as active participants in the premeditated killing. Rajesh faced accessory charges for failing to prevent or report the crime, his business acumen useless against the weight of criminal conspiracy. The community reacted with shock as the respected Malhotra family was revealed as honor killers. Media coverage focused on generational differences in cultural adaptation, contrasting Vikram's traditional mindset with younger family members torn between old values and Canadian law. The prosecution methodically presented evidence of family conspiracy, phone records showing coordination, and forensic proof contradicting suicide staging. Vikram's traditional honor defense crumbled in Canadian court, where cultural justifications held no legal weight. Sunita's deadly obsession with reputation was exposed through witness testimony about her 20-year campaign to build social standing. Community members described her pathological need for respectability that ultimately drove her to murder. Arjun's emotional testimony revealed the crushing pressure of living between two worlds. At 32, he described feeling trapped between love for his wife and loyalty to family authority that demanded absolute obedience. Rajesh's business empire, built on community respect and carefully cultivated image, became evidence of motive. His restaurant's success depended on reputation that Priya's deception threatened to destroy. Priya's real story emerged through victim impact statements from her family in India. They painted a picture of a desperate girl who chose deception over poverty but never deserved death for her lies. Expert witnesses testified about honor-based violence in immigrant communities, explaining how traditional values could become toxic when applied inflexibly in multicultural societies. Surrey's Indian community faced painful self-examination as the trial exposed honor culture's deadly potential. Community leaders organized discussions about arranged marriage pressures and status obsession that created environments where deception seemed necessary for survival. Educational campaigns addressed domestic violence within cultural contexts, teaching families to recognize warning signs before honor concerns escalated to violence. Support groups formed specifically for women facing family pressure around marriage and reputation. Justice Margaret Wong delivered sentences that reflected each family member's culpability. Uncle Vikram and Sunita received life sentences as primary murderers who planned and executed the killing. Arjun's 25-year sentence acknowledged his manipulation by elders but held him accountable for participation. Rajesh's 15-year sentence reflected his failure to prevent murder despite opportunity to intervene. Judge Wong's statement resonated beyond the courtroom. Honor has no place in Canadian justice. No cultural tradition justifies taking human life to protect reputation or social standing. Vikram's final statement remained defiant. I protected my family's name as duty required. Future generations will understand my sacrifice. His complete lack of remorse shocked observers expecting cultural rehabilitation. Arjun's tearful apology contrasted sharply with his uncle's stance, revealing generational splits that had made the family vulnerable to traditional extremism. The Malhotra family business empire collapsed under scandal and legal costs, serving a stark reminder that honor killing destroys everything it claims to protect. Their restaurants closed, their community standing evaporated, and their reputation became synonymous with murder rather than success. Priya's story became a cautionary tale examined in cultural studies and domestic violence prevention programs. Educational initiatives in immigrant communities emphasized that Canadian law protects individuals from family violence regardless of cultural justifications. A memorial fund established in Priya's name provides educational access for young women facing similar pressures, ensuring her death contributed to preventing future tragedies through knowledge rather than fear. The community's commitment to never again allow honor to override human life became Surrey's lasting response to a tragedy that exposed how quickly cultural pride could transform into deadly violence.